Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening to our program talk, Bringing Back the Bay Lights with Ben Davis. Hi, my name is Robert Melton. I'm the art curator and the co-chair of the arts firm here at the Commonwealth Club. I'll be your host for this evening's program. I'd like to first acknowledge our community partners who's been very supportive for this program this evening. Beyond the Fog Radio, Hot Cookies, Casas Sanchez, Trader Joe's, and Shreyas Tindar Kar for their in-kind donations. I'd like to give a big shout out to the Commonwealth staff and event volunteers for supporting this program. And lastly, I'd like to thank the music duo, Cobbin, who will be entertaining us on the rooftop after this program, so stick around. Great job. We're very delighted this evening to have Ben Davis speak about the status of the Bay Lights and his latest project called City of Awe. A little background about Mr. Davis. Davis is the founder and chief visionary officer of Illuminate, the art nonprofit behind many of the San Francisco large-scale iconic public artworks, including lighting the pink triangle on Twin Peaks, activation of the Golden Mile on JFK Promenade, the Summer of Love, lighting of the Conservatory of Flowers, Grace Light and Grace Cathedral, and the revival of Golden Gate Bandshell, and the series of giant laser art installations across San Francisco this summer. Davis is the driving force behind the Bay Lights and the efforts to bring the lights installation back with twice the number of LEDs. With the project 75% funded, 2.5 more is needed to proceed. Davis will reveal what's next for this historic effort. Please give a warm welcome to Ben Davis. Welcome to the stage here.
I'm going to wait.
Come up with me.
We're very honored to have Carolyn Tyler as our moderator this evening. Carolyn Tyler spent 32 years as an anchor reporter for KGO-TV and ABC 7. She covered political and socioeconomic topics, including an Emmy-nominated series on homelessness and an Emmy-nominated series on civil rights movement and the impact on the Bay Area high school students. She was also part of the station's news team that received the highest awards in journalism, the Peabody for coverage of the Loma Prieta earthquake. Tyler has been inducted into the Silver Circle by the National Academy of Television Arts and Science, recognizing her distinguished career. Upon her retirement in 2018, the National Society of Professional Journalists presented Tyler with the Broadcast Career Achievement Award. She is a board member of Alonzo King's Ballet. She presently serves on the San Francisco Film Commission, appointed by the Board of Supervisors. Please give Carolyn a warm applause.
And good evening, everyone. How are you? I'm excited to be here, too. I can hardly see anybody because of the lights, but I guess that's probably a good thing, Ben. But we're here to talk about the lights and about you and the lights. We know that Ben Davis is the founder and the chief visionary officer for Illuminate. I love the whole visionary part of your title. So San Francisco, a lot of times we have visionaries, and they're often people like you who come from somewhere else, and then they come into our city and they're full of new ideas. So not to get too much into the weeds about it, but I know that you came here from Boston many years ago, and I'm wondering what your impression was of the city and how that has shaped where you are today.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for agreeing to spend this time with me.
Of course.
And thank you for dramatically outdressing me. I want to go home and change. I'm not sure what I would change into, but I'd be a little more competitive, I think. I showed up in San Francisco in 1978 after hitchhiking across country at age 17 with a friend, and our first day in San Francisco turned out coincidentally to be the San Francisco Pride Parade. And so literally Harvey Milk is going up in the middle of the street, and there's chaos, and I had heard a little bit, my friend, about this homosexual thing happening in San Francisco. It was a different information era. But right away, even though we were young guys just out of high school, the homophobic stuff just stopped. We're like, don't even go there. This is kind of amazing. We grew up in a really intolerant city, Boston, coming through the throes of the desegregation of the school system. And I was immediately charmed with this place called San Francisco, where people could pretty much just be themselves. I ended up going back to Boston and going to Cal and going back to Boston again and working on a big environmental cleanup project, but came out here again in 1994 and moved into Glen Park, and this is my city now. I love San Francisco. I'm having a love affair with San Francisco.
Wow, yeah, and we're loving what you're doing for San Francisco as well. And so when we want to talk about the Bay Lights project, I listened to a podcast by my friend Susan Brown, Beyond the Fog. She interviewed you. It was fantastic. I watched a documentary that you guys should also watch on YouTube called Impossible Light, and it explains the whole process behind the Lights project and how, I mean, OMG, it does seem like it was impossible. So from what I gather, you're at the farmer's market one day, you're at the ferry building, you look at the Golden Gate, you've looked at that many times, you decide the Bay Bridge needs a little bit of loving, you're looking at it, and all of a sudden you have what Oprah would call an aha moment. What about that?
Yeah, a bit of a revelation. Let me say that when I came to San Francisco, I took a job, got fired from that job, and ended up starting my own little design company called Words, Pictures, Ideas. It was really a quality of life business while my daughter, at that point, was 2 years old, and I could just spend time with her. But anytime a mega project came in, because I cut my teeth working on the Boston Harbor cleanup project, starting off as an intern fetching coffee, and leaving 8 years later as the manager of public information on a $4 billion environmental cleanup project that in this moment, is still doing good in the world. And so I got a real love of people coming together to solve intractable problems in the form of infrastructure. And anytime a project like that came near me, I would lose my mind and lavish my attention on it. So we ended up, this little company, naming and branding and communicating on $15 billion worth of civic improvement projects, including the Bay Bridge Seismic Safety Project. So I had a 7-year history working with the folks at Caltrans and MTC and other places. And that bridge was coming up on its 75th anniversary. I knew its history real well, including, your Peabody Award, 1989, Loma Prieta earthquake moment for the failure of the bridge. And I just thought to myself, as I sat there at the end of the ferry building with a cup of coffee, watching the farmer's market wake up, and watching the sun come up behind the bridge, thinking, how could you let this bridge shine in the region's consciousness again? And it showed itself to me as this canvas of light. I almost walked away from it. It filled me with love and energy, but I thought that's a crazy idea, and just like you can't do that. But I was grappling with this notion of love and fear at the time. That every decision we make comes from one or two places, either from love or fear. And the truth is, most of the decisions I was making, and some ways even now, I got to be mindful of this, are coming from a place of fear, not from love. They're more concerned with the outcome for me, slightly shaded in my favor, rather than just a loving gesture for the other. And so I realized that it's not that, the idea is crazy. I'm afraid of being judged crazy for having the idea. And I know how much work it would actually take, but I decided right then and there, this is the revelation put into action, that I'm going to pursue this project in the name of love. And on my own time and dime, walked it out into the world. And 2.5 years later, with an amazing cast of people manifesting, the Bay Lights flickered to life on March 5th, 2013.
But you're taking this, what basically is a workhorse bridge, and deciding, I want to turn it into a work of art. So, as you describe it as a canvas of lights, you've got that idea, but then taking that through fruition, what were those steps? There were so many challenges. I mean, you had to meet up with an artist who could understand your vision.
Yeah, I mean, that was a Saturday. Actually, I went back and checked the calendar. It was September 18th, 2010. The next Monday was the communications team meeting, and I went into the group of people who I already had a relationship with, and at the end of the meeting, they talk about any other ideas. I say, I got an idea that might let our bridge outshine the Golden Gate for a little while. And everyone was like, oh, talk to us. Because there's a co-opetition among the bridges. Yeah. Bay Bridge was the first bridge to open the bridgification of the Bay Area on November 12th, 1936. There were 4 days of regional celebrations. Symphonies and poems were written. There were light shows. And then 6 months later, the symmetrically perfect sister with the beautiful skin to the north opens and the whole world's attention drifts. And for 70 years, this hard, second busiest bridge in America, serving us. And if we think about it at all, it's mostly with a sense of consternation that we have to get across it. And I just really wanted to figure out how could you let the beauty, because I saw the beauty in it, still chokes me up, shine. And wow, how successful. To walk out in the name of love and see the world open up that way. The bureaucracies finding ways to say yes to something that was impossible to say yes to. The artists divinely manifesting. I only talked to one artist in this whole project. It was divine from the start. And the technology, people coming together to figure out how not to put a bunch of pixels onto a screen, but spread them out over 1.8 miles, 500 feet in the sky.
300 cables.
Yeah, and 25,000 lights, the same number of lights that are in a perfectly dark night sky, of stars rather, in a night sky. That's kind of a weird coincidence about the beauty of the Bay Lights. This is part of the awe that it brings into our world. And then turning away all of the money that wanted to change the project, that wanted to put their technology embedded or give their customers access or put a logo on the bridge. And just saying no when we had nothing to all of that and still watching the world rise up philanthropically to meet us. Mm-hmm. It was an amazing journey. One of the things I learned as part of this is when you really give yourself to a transformational effort, and this is true for scores of people on the Bay Lights, you're transformed as part of the bargain. You're taken away as part of it, and you are in the world in a different way after a project like that.
So what was your pitch? As those of us who live in San Francisco, we know the bureaucracy is so entrenched, and you have to have a task force, and then there's a commission to study the task force, and then there's a public hearing to study this and that. I mean, how did you get around that? And tell me about your pitch to Caltrans to say, we're going to go up on this bridge and do this.
It was an impossible project. The mission of the organization now, having the Bay Lights as our flagship project, is illuminate, rallies large groups of people together to create impossible works of public art that through awe free humanity's better nature. And part of the purity of this project and part of let me just say this. For 3 months I talked about this and I was getting some momentum and wiggling my fingers in the air, and Bay Bridge was a canvas of light, and didn't really know what it looked like. I could feel it energetically. It started to actually, get serious, where there were I got the liability insurance figured out. They figured out I was serious. Started working on permission, started getting plans out. And then I reached out, like I say, through coincidence to Leo Villarreal. Had a series of conversations with him on the phone. This feels like, we didn't even see each other. All I heard was his voice. And 3 months later, he turned in this 48-second rendering video that was consistent with everything we talked about, but blew me away with its beauty. And when I showed that to people stopped wishing me luck and started asking, how can I help? Because we all want to live in a more beautiful world. We all want to feel that awe and that sense of generosity around us. We want to have a pride in the sense of the place that we live. And we're willing to sacrifice and give up a little bit to make that happen. The bureaucrats took on this much more paperwork with no more pay. They should be honored. Leo coming in, you can't do this in your studio and then unveil it to the world. He had to come out here, program real time in front of the whole city to cultivate the beauty that we ultimately saw. And that's a courageous move and a beautiful gesture on his part. And the philanthropists who came in, and you probably don't know who they are because it's that kind of project. People aren't working on this project for any other reason that they want to see it and they want to participate in something larger than themselves.
Well, I think it's honorable that you did not want to take, first of all, that you said no to advertising on the bridge, but also that you did not want to take city money that could be used for other projects. So here you are trying to, at one point you even are putting your home up as collateral. Why did it mean so much?
It's a good question. I don't really have the answer. It moves through me. I am in service in a profound way, and I'm an instrument. And part of there's this quote from Goethe, which is, at the moment of commitment, the entire world conspires to ensure your success, which sounds so easy. I have that quote on my kitchen wall. It's been there for actually 15, 16 years now, in chalk up above a door frame in the kitchen. And I looked at it over breakfast many years, and I realized it's that word commitment. Commitment is a willingness to sacrifice everything else in the pursuit of a single vision. And it turned out there was a moment, which I wouldn't talk about other than the filmmaker was there. You watched this film, and I felt like he was doing this, like filming all these meetings, like this poor guy has no story. He turned into a great story. But I figured if I'm going to do this privately, I should just let him know just in case. So ended up putting Aline in my own home when there wasn't enough funds to make the Bay Lights happen. And, once again, the world provided a way that I didn't have to lose the home. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But it was part of the process. And I think part of this, just on a super personal level, I can't see folks out here, but I can feel your energy out there. It's a journey, and that's the privilege of it. You're really living in a very active, real way in your world. I feel a little raw at the moment, you guys. I'm sorry. I don't have a chance to talk about it like this so much in front of a lot of people. It's a super powerful, emotional project in connection to the city of San Francisco. And it doesn't come easy. It really is a demanding thing. It's sort of like you have to really be deeply in service to it and believe in it, or it has to believe in you. I'm not sure how it works. But it's a powerful equation, and it is humbling to sit at the sort of seat of it and watch the things manifest around you. Especially, we'll move into some of the images and things that are happening now. One of the decisions, a lot of these are just decisions to shut down a company and take a pay cut. When I took over Illuminated about a decade ago, suddenly the Bay Lights was such a sensation. There were invitations coming in from around the world to work in other cities, kind of lucrative offers. Those still come in, and I was tempted, but I'm like, no, that's not why I shut everything down and made this big move. I wanted to make a difference where I live. I think that's the deeper way to move people, rather than sprinkle lights in Dubai or Singapore in a mall or something. So Illuminate works exclusively in San Francisco. We concentrate exclusively in San Francisco. And the power of that is that you can't replicate yourself. You have to keep being original and interesting in the place that you live, or empowering other people to be original and interesting in the place that you live. And you build a high trust network of people who want to see things happen. So I can pick up the phone and pretty much in a very quick amount of time get a sense of whether a project has a possibility or not with high-level conversations or mid-level conversations. And so it's a super strange, efficient, weird place in which I find myself right now, with way more creative agency than I ever thought I would have.
Well, and you need it now, trying to do a redo, and also all the other projects that you do with what you call the City of Awe, A-W-E, Awe. Where lighting and enlightenment means so much to you. You said something in one of the interviews about a feeling of rage, and this sort of being a counterbalance to that, something that motivates you.
Yeah. People often ask, why you do all these amazing, beautiful things. What motivates you? And the simple answer is just rage. I don't get out of bed unless I'm pissed off at something, and there's something I want to see be different in the world. But I've learned to, sit as long as I possibly can on that teenage reaction rage that does no good, that causes more harm, that puts more rage out into the world, and hold it until you can find the loving expression. What is the love? How can you find the love in the rage? And so it's an interesting practice all the time. It's a humbling thing to acknowledge that one has rage. Doesn't make you, the person everyone wants to hang out with. You're kind of scary if you have rage in you. But the truth is, it's a big motor. Rage is a motor. And if you can find a way to harness it towards something that's beautiful and really has pure intention, that tries to not just get pissed off, but address the thing you're trying to address in a beautiful way, and bring people along really just through the power of beauty and awe into a higher space, an enlightened space. And it's not always with light, by the way. People think Illuminate and the Bay Bridge, and we lit the pink triangles things, but we did 1.5 miles of JFK Promenade that's open in the daytime, and people are enjoying all day long. We have the Golden Gate van shell. with most of the concerts in the daytime, especially in the summer months. And monumental reckoning, we did a piece with a couple flags you'll see here that have no relationship to light other than one absorbs and one reflects light of the natural sunlight. So it's really about not light, but about enlightenment, about creating a new way. I think when an Illuminate project is at its very, very best, it feels like it's always been there. Like the Bay Lights feel like when they're gone now, they feel like something's missing rather than something
A hole
that's been
in the
added.
sky,
Yeah.
I think it was described as. So let's talk a little bit about that, because it was supposed to be just a temporary project, a couple of years, and it went for nearly a decade, and then it was gone. And what happened, and why?
It was actually a 2-year temporary project. That's part of the trick of getting it done and permanent in the first place, as you're inventing a way, to make it. I'm so glad we didn't try and make it permanent, because in fact, we learned so much in that first round of the Bay Lights. And it did actually fail technically pretty badly in those first 2 years, more than people really know. It was chaos a lot of the time to try and salvage it. And when we got to the end of that 2 years, I was grateful to take it down, but also knowing that, it had to come back. And this is when I made that transition. I had let my company drift and was either going to go back and save that, but I realized the one gesture of the Bay Bridge did more than the 20 years of me making websites and doing all the things I did to communicate and mega projects. Tons of information, but nothing that touched people so deeply. So I made the leap, and we brought the Bay Lights back. Actually, they came back for a second time with a more robust set of still off-the-shelf hardware. And they did well for the first 5 or so years, but in the past couple of years, the maintenance curve has just been spiking, because it's a obscenely hard environment for electronics.
Fog, wind, rain.
There you go, salty air, lightning strikes, expansion and contraction, 24/7 vibration, car grime, on the list goes. And so, but rather than let the Bay Lights fade, or sort of decay into oblivion, which I think is a bad metaphor for the place that we live right now, we took the hard choice, but the right choice, which is we're going to bring it down, and we worked hard before doing that to bring a team together committed to bringing the Bay Lights back in a very robust, first time ever custom engineered from the ground up to do well over time on the Bay Bridge. Working with a group called Musco Lighting, who did the Eastern Span, that beautiful white span that went live in 2013 that has performed flawlessly for the past decade. We have, and instead of, let me talk about at the end some of the other cool improvements that are coming on, unless you want to jump ahead.
No, let's take a seat back for a second, and
Let me do this. Actually, let me finish this, but then we can just get into the money at the end, and we can get past
sure.
that. So here's the cool thing.
we need money.
Instead of just bringing the Bay Lights back in the same configuration, which would be totally great, we're a risk-based organization. We really want to try things. And the one criticism I've received, and I hear so many beautiful things, but I often get that, I see you have the wherewithal to point it at all the fancy folks in the penthouse in the North Bay, but you couldn't quite let it shine on the folks of Oakland. And I'm like, ooh, ouch. It was, it was a 1 1/4 inch node behind a 2 1/4 inch cable, and we were trying to avoid this concept of driver distraction, so we had to rotate it around, and it was not, we didn't mean it intentionally, and people are like, right. I'm like, ooh, wow. So I've wanted to figure out, like, how could you, if we're going to bring it back, how can we do it so we really get aesthetic equity for everybody, not just for the fancier part of San Francisco, but right down the eastern side into the Bayview, across the bay into Alameda, and into Oakland and Berkeley.
I like that phrase, aesthetic equity.
Yeah.
Because yes, everyone deserves to see this magnificent, never ending and always changing series of lights.
So instead of having 25,000, we'll have 50,000, and we will, this is a little, wrap your minds around this. We're going to stay on the western span of the Bay Bridge, those 4 towers. We're going to stay on the northern side of the bridge, the side that faces downtown, but we're going to wrap both sides of the cable so that you can still see it from around the bay. And the real tricky part, and the part we need to go through and again, work respectfully with the agencies who have the initial reaction if you're the CHP and Caltrans and a traffic engineer, hey, that's going to cause the driver distraction and people are going to lose their
Yes.
minds and trucks are going to drive off the edge of the bridge and school buses will explode. I'm like, well, maybe. Maybe, but you know what? When we started this project in 2010, you didn't have a 17-inch monitor in your Tesla, and you didn't have the 9-story television screen on top of the tallest building west of the Mississippi in the center of the city, and you didn't have this thing in your pocket chirping at you every 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even now, and even then, we drove through the K-Fog Kaboom 20-minute concussive multicolored fireworks show next to when no one crashed and died. And people drive through the Strip in Vegas right now with billboard girls in bikinis popping champagne
We can deal
bottles.
with the distraction, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, maybe it would be beautiful if you could enter San Francisco after, between dusk and dawn through the portal of public art. 25,000 low wattage, abstract, gently moving bits of light that let you see the city of San Francisco opening up on the other side of you. And maybe once again, this city can demonstrate that we can do things that no one else has figured out how to do and lead the way. And that's the vision for what we're calling the Bay Lights 360.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about how much that cost, where you are in the project, and what people here can do to help. But let's talk a little bit about your other projects that you've been doing also as part of the City of Awe. And I think you have a
I do.
PowerPoint presentation
I
if
do,
you
if you
want to
guys wanna-
show some of those different things that
That's great.
are, light-filled public art, pushing
Great.
beauty through the sky.
Super. I'm going to kind of go through these quickly, and then hopefully we'll get to some Q&A with the audience.
Yes.
That's great. So everyone knows the Bay Lights. We've worked on a lot of projects you may be familiar with. We actually did the Conservatory Flower, the Summer of Love installation that now shines nightly in Golden Gate Park, and I think has helped some of the transformation that's happening in the park there. We have an installation that's actually happening tonight. They're kicking off the season in Grace Cathedral called Grace Light. A beautiful.
8:00.
Anyone seen this installation?
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to describe, isn't it? But it is a powerful and deep work, probably the deepest work that we've done. And it's kind of, we've made sure, one of Illuminate's guiding principles is create nothing that requires paid admission. So, there's no charge for this, although I think the cathedral encourages a donation. But there's a reservation system, and you sort of at the 15th of the month at noon, there are thousands of people trying to get a few hundred tickets. I kind of hate the exclusivity of it, but I do like the fact that we've just done the right thing and created something that is incredibly powerful. And again, exists only here in San Francisco,
It's spiritual.
without question. But it's spiritual in such a way that it's radically accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a chance not just to witness it, but you get a chance to lay beneath it. And there's a sense of many things, but I think it's the place between life and death, really, for me. And I've shed my tears and talked to my father and had my moments, and I'm going to be going there tonight. I welcome every single group that comes through. It's part of my service. And I'm excited. I get to go see this tonight. I get to be with us tonight. We only do it during half the year when it's sort of dark enough, early enough. Anyway, it's a great project. We worked for the past 3 years with, Patrick Carney, who's been for 25 years making the Pink Triangle out of canvas. He couldn't do it because of COVID. I reached out to him, and we ended up lighting it for the past 3 years. He went back to the canvas this year, which looked beautiful, and we took on some other challenges. But I love the Pink Triangle in general, and I really love the illuminated version of that. And we, instead of just doing it over Pride Weekend, we actually did it for all of Pride Month, which I think sent a really beautiful symbol and signal. It's one thing to talk about Pride Month and then wait for Pride Weekend, but you really felt like it was Pride Month in San Francisco and in California when this piece was up. This is just a Harvey Milk quote that's in the Castro that we snuck in that you may notice from time to time, or a little gentle welcoming to everybody. It's sort of an acknowledgement that our city means, it's just the place that we live and we can get cranky with it, but it means a lot to the rest of the world.
Yeah. You
It
got to
means a
have
lot.
hope. So
Yeah, this is a
that
Harvey
whole
Milk quote.
Harvey Milk, yes.
This is an extraordinary piece by a friend and a sculptor, Dana King, and someone you probably know from your broadcast days.
Monumental Reckoning.
Monumental Reckoning surrounded the Francis Scott Key, vacated Francis Scott Key plinth in Golden Gate Park in the Music Concourse. And I just have to say, visit it. It tells the American story in a way you haven't seen. It's really beautiful and powerful.
And talk about the Lift Every Voice and Sing at
Let's
the
see it.
band shell. Yes.
This is the Golden Gate Bandshell, formerly really, or still, the Spreckles Temple of Music. But, you know, originally came live in 1900, had a couple of great decades, and then for most part was pretty quiet. There were some good bands that came through here and there, but we realized that there was this energetic void in the park, this music concourse in which you never heard music. And so we set about solving the riddle of how do you bring this back, and ended up ripping out the old stage, putting in a new stage, putting in place theatrical lighting system, a world-class Meyer sound system, and now Illuminate, with the great help of a guy named Stefan Franz, who runs the place. It's amazing. We hosted 125 live free concerts there this year. It's great. It's a really beautiful thing. And we put that area at the top was actually blank for a long time, for 122 years, in fact. I guess I want to tell this story. At one point, as I was helping Golden Gate Park thinking about how to celebrate the 150th anniversary, someone said, "Oh, that'd be a great place for a corporate banner." And I kind of threw up a little bit. I always think I have a straight face, but people are like, "What?" I'm like, I don't know, man. Really? They're like, no, not tacky, but like Thrive Permanente. I'm like, oh no. So I'm like, I got to displace this with something more powerful, and was considering that same Harvey Milk quote for a while. And then when George Floyd was murdered, there was this different shift in consciousness. Again, something happened in America that is beautiful and powerful, and I wish we could sort of hold on to it even longer. I feel that fading energy of it, but I just dug deep into my history and the history of the reading I was doing. I was trying to find a quote from a person of color that would go up there, that would be meaningful. And I had been reading James Baldwin and Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison and all sorts of folks. And there was, beautiful thoughts, but nothing that would fit. And then this song kind of surfaced up from my childhood. I grew up in Boston next to the First Concord Baptist Church, and my bedroom was right off the place where the choir would practice.
The Negro National Anthem.
Yeah, James Weldon Johnson. And James Weldon Johnson wrote this song in 1900, the same year that the Bandshell opened. He was born within the year of Parker being founded in 1870. He goes on to help form the NAACP. The song goes on, the poem actually that his brother sets to music goes on to become the Negro, the Black National Anthem. And it lives right across the way from the vacated Francis Scott Key Plinth, which was the national anthem, which has its own complicated history.
Mm-hmm.
But
how ironic.
What's that?
I said, how ironic.
It's a wild, energetic juxtaposition.
Yes.
If you spend time in the Bandshell and you start to understand what's happening in the work of Dana King in that space, and you'll see an image in a second, I think, with a couple of flags that are there. But the words "Lift Every Voice," that was a heroic lift here in San Francisco, going to the Historic Preservation Commission. We called that a 2-year temporary project. We designed it to live for 20 years. It just got a 5-year extension from the Historic Preservation Commission. Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where it feels like it's always been there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting project. Oh yeah, you can see this is we have this project that was up, made of pure silk, these flagpoles had stayed empty forever. And since they just were poles, we turned them into polarity, and this notion of people can see whatever they want. It's actually quite a provocative piece in many ways. But the basic essence of it's we feel like we live in polarized times, but it's an ancient concept that there's this system that's trying to pull you to the edges and depower you. If you want to get back to the magic, get back to the middle, where all the possibility exists. So the middle is the Bandshell here, and it's a very fun piece. Let's see if we're going to click. Again, we activated 1.5 miles of JFK Promenade, which we named the Golden Mile, because we are like to underpromise and overdeliver. I don't know if folks have been out there in the past year. We didn't have a single piece of paint on the ground. We were only 2 weeks into this project 1 year ago. This is part of the magic of this organization, is that we are getting things done at a pace that doesn't even make sense, that the city officials are confounded, like how are we doing this so quickly? And I don't really have the answer other than our intentions are really good. The ideas are pretty deeply vetted. We're radically inclusive in our approach. All the stuff that you see that we're doing, we're a 2-person salaried staff. It's really just unleashing the passions and talents, getting everybody working in the sweet spot of their creative genius generously towards the common good.
Mhm. You call it a call to action. Yeah.
It's an invitation. It's an invitation, like San Francisco at its very best. It's an invitation to be your best self. And to bring your talent to bear in a way that makes a difference in the world, that makes you smile. And JFK Promenade is just great, because what it really is doing, it sidestepped this argument about bikes, no bikes, cars, no cars, parking, and it just said, look, this is beauty, safety, and comfort. And there's a place that we can slow down enough to enjoy each other and feel safer with each other. And we're still working on getting those few bikes going too fast to slow down too. And then to bring music into the park, and to bring a beer garden into the park, and a coffee cart. And it's not about commerce, it's about service and community, and just changing the dialogue and the debate in a way that now is being looked at by other places around the world as a form of transformation. Again, we didn't even start this in less than a year ago, and it feels so established now. And we got more stuff coming on the Golden Mile. It's super exciting. And again, hats off to so many people, to the Rec and Park, to Phil Ginsburg, to the amazing team that he brought into place, to the MTA, to everybody who has to figure out if they're going to scrutinize and stop, help, look the other way, but let us keep going and making San Francisco a more beautiful place without having to jump through the flaming hoops that sometimes can be put up, as if we're Oracle World or some other thing that has infinite resources. It's not fair. Like, come on, man, let us make. We live here. And so this is the concept we've unleashed this summer. We've been thinking about this for a long time. But if Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, and Paris is the city of light, and Los Angeles is the city of angels, we hereby declare San Francisco is the city of awe. It's who we are. Yeah. It's not a branding exercise. This is just a declaration of who we are, with an added aspirational calling of who we must always be in the decisions that we make. So this is an open source moniker. People can do whatever they want with it. And I don't know who coined City of Light or City of Brotherly Love. It doesn't matter. What matters is that's how you come to think about it, and words matter as we make decisions. So welcome to San Francisco, City of Awe, and when the next person comes, you welcome them to the City of Awe, and let's keep going. We did, to push this concept along a little bit, we came up with this, we started working with the Lasers on Market Street a year ago over Pride Weekend. Super exciting, its own story. That was an effort that was less than a month from conception to execution, and at the end we ended up going renegade on it and did it anyway. And
Better to what's that expression about asking for forgiveness than permission?
Yeah, I'll tell a little funny story. I've heard 3 descriptions from division directors in San Francisco about me. Phil Ginsburg said, I just came from a senior staff meeting where my staff, when I came in, was debating whether the proper metaphor for you was a hurricane or a wrecking ball. I'm like, please, people like me. And Jeff Tumlin introduced me to someone on Scott Wiener's staff. He goes, who's Ben Davis? He's the bane of every bureaucrat in San Francisco. I'm like, what? I thought we were working together here, you guys, making things happen. And then Elaine Forbes at the Port came looking for me when we did the last one, because I didn't quite get the last piece of permission and chose to do it anyway. We're being safe. I guarantee you we're being safe. And I'll take all the risk, and we're insured, and we're not causing that kind of problem. It's just, the system gets a little ridiculous sometimes, and you got to keep moving. And she said, I just came out of a staff meeting, and there was this, we all agreed there were 3 types of people. There were difficult people, very difficult people, and Ben Davis. So this was just like a hypnosis trick to try and get a lot of things done. Sometimes when you're trying to work on an idea, and like the folks at Sutro Tower have a legitimate beef. Someone built a giant tower 50 years ago in the middle of their neighborhood without really telling them about it, and they still have animosity towards this. So I knew they would be challenging to try and get permission to work on Sutro Tower, even though its 50th birthday was on July 4th this year. So I figured, we need to make it a bigger so it's harder to say no. You could say no to the project in your neighborhood, but you're saying no to the whole city. So we made a lot of projects with the hope that we would get a few of them. We got all of them, which is great. 4 different permission
You
systems.
had Coit Tower.
We got Coit Tower. So I'll just go through these quickly. This was Market Street for anyone who saw this. This was truly spectacular. These laser space cannons working with this company out of Folsom, California. Really a guy, Tim Anderson, who runs his company, who's a beautiful soul. This is the one little piece of video. Did anyone see this, experience this piece? Yeah, I mean, and we really didn't know what it would look like, at least that first year. And it is stunning. It's truly stunning. We had FAA approval, by the way. But if we had gone through this process the right way, there'd be a traffic engineer who would be convinced that a bus driver is going to see red and green and accelerate and smash and, and how can you prove and show me the study that disproves. It's like, oh my God, you can't do that.
Committee, the task force, and the
so,
hearing.
I mean, some of this, I think our city was born to take a few calculated risks and smart risks. We're not taking risks with public safety. We're really not. We're doing this safely, but we are pushing the envelope and trying to step out of the kind of just the fear loop that every single thing is going to cause a catastrophe. And in some ways, when you don't get the permission, you don't ask the person to sign the piece of paper, they're like, all right, I want to see it. Just don't make me be responsible when something goes bad. This was spectacular. I put this up because sometimes people don't really know what Sutro Tower. I imagine this audience mostly knows what Sutro Tower, but it's amazing how people are like, Sutro Tower, and the big thing in the middle, and you show them pictures, oh, Sutro Tower. Sutro Tower is a monster. Sutro Tower is it's almost as tall as the Eiffel Tower, except it has an 864-foot head start. So we threw those lasers through the middle, these 12 laser space cannons, on Sutro Tower's 50th birthday, at first crack of life in 1973. And Carl the Fog, who we actually named as the artist on all of the Summer of Awe installations. We agreed that we were just putting photons through space, and whatever Carl does is really where the magic comes in.
He's part of the art.
He painted with a heavy brush for about 5 nights up on the tower, but we welcomed it. It was beautiful. It was the most amazing personal light laser show anyone has ever seen. We were really shrouded. Did anyone get a chance to see this? Oh my God, it was so, I don't know, Japanese sci-fi, something was going on there. That was really amazing and beautiful to see in the center of our city. And this piece we called Love Above, with the idea that, whether you believe it or not, whether you choose to do it or not, if you'd like to, feel free to look up the Sutro Tower, this transmission tower, and send love to it, knowing that thousands of other people may be doing that same thing at the same time. And if you're really feeling brave and vulnerable, see if you can receive love from it. Mm-hmm. It's a great project. I would love to do this again when we could all see it.
We would love for you to do it.
There's about 5 neighbors we got to talk to. We don't really want anything good to happen. This was Coit Tower. Coit Tower. Anyone get a chance to see Coit Tower? Oh my goodness. Coit Tower was spectacular. We had to have a little, weird waltz with Aaron Peskin on this one, which just made no sense. But it was stopped, and it was beautiful to figure out how do you get a projects like this, that really want to happen on behalf of San Francisco.
Well, I think they were concerned. I mean, there's beautiful artwork in Coit Tower, the Depression era murals, so I could see a little bit of hesitancy about that.
We had permission from Rec and Park. We had permission from the Arts Commission. We had gone through the protocol of how we would keep everything safe. We're an arts organization that's not about to go scratch a bunch of murals.
Yeah.
It was just the local politics, the cancer of local politics raised its head for a little while.
But you got above it.
We definitely got around it.
Yeah.
And thank goodness. And by the way, these lasers are really cool. This is from the very top. This is lying on my back on top of Coit Tower, watching these beams move up into space, and seeing Carl dance with it. It's so spectacular and beautiful. I want to share it with all of you from that up.
Magnificent.
We'll be doing some more. Trust me, we're going to do some interesting stuff here.
So you've talked about boom or bust times, and San Francisco is going through one of those down times. And you said that's when creativity can really shine.
Always, right? The boom times are the best of times if you want to be creative. You know, this town's very. I was thinking about this in the lobby, this whole, you know, gold rush, .com booms. There's this kind of partial kind of greed madness that kind of gets you here, and then the tables flip, and either people leave or they're like, oh, I was called here for a different reason. I was called here to become myself. I was called here to participate in this most beautiful, magical place that I've now find myself with the privilege of being in. San Francisco's, you know, every place is special. Every child's beautiful. But this place, I really do believe.
Spectacular.
You know, we're a city of under 1 million people still.
Yes.
Gold Rush, Barbary Coast, you know, labor movement, beat movement, queer movement, hippie movement, coder movement, doesn't mean, just these things keep coming that are allegedly going to destroy the city that make us more magical every single time, is that next wave of culture gets imprinted, and then that just the beauty of the place itself, which is just undeniable, where it meets that power of the creativity of the people, and this kind of fierce desire for loving self-expression, you know, where you can be yourself, where the boundaries are still kind of figured out, where you still exist with a lot of other people. And we can, you know, we can find this rhythm, find this place that lets us shine, and lets everyone in this place be their most beautiful, amazing, creative self. I love this place.
I do too.
And I feel we have an obligation to let the rest of the world know. And this is why, of course, you know, you get to the harder parts of San Francisco right now, the seeming dysfunction. And so someone says we're beautiful on the macro level and horrific on the micro level. And that comment stings because we know the truth of it in certain areas. We also know the other truth of the beauty of all the neighborhoods and the places and the people. But we're always going to be able to do better, and we always should do our best to be the city of all. And the thing that's going to save us, really, I think, is the culture. I would live in the country if we're not for the amazing things that are available to me here, because I've chosen to live in the city. This country is beautiful. Trees, rivers, you know, bears and things like that.
Bugs,
I know.
mosquitoes.
Some other challenges. I grew up in the city. But you know, it's beautiful. When I'm on JFK and I see all those people smiling, moving up and down JFK, talking to each other, or
And knowing you played a role too has got to be gratifying.
super.
Before we go to the audience for some questions, I want to get back to the Bay Lights 360. And I'm wondering if it's easier to raise money now. How much do you need? Is it easier now that people have been enthralled with the first go-round and want it back desperately?
Here, let's do one thing. The last installation I went through was called Window. We had the 12 lasers that shot from the roof of the Fairmont into the rose window of Grace Cathedral. So there's sort of an exterior spectacle and then an interior spectacle. I think we have just one little moment of being in there the last night. You know, no one's done this before. We didn't know how it was going to look. We just made sure it could be done safely for the windows, safely for the people in the cathedral. It's so beautiful. I don't know what to say. It was stunning to be there and have this, you know, this ancient concept, this millennial-old concept of a rose window suddenly be activated in a different way with the light coming in the cathedral. It's really, really beautiful. And I feel so privileged to have the chance to experiment with a group of people on ideas like this that typically don't get a chance to exist or even be tried in the world. And I'm loving that we're doing it here in San Francisco. Yeah. Back to the Bay Lights. What is my next slide? Let me just see. Oh yeah, there we go. There's our little happy Bay Lights slide. Your question is you know, really about the money question on the Bay Lights. Is it easier? We make it hard on ourselves. No corporate sponsorship. You know, we don't.
And you're wanting to do twice as much?
Twice as many. And we're doing it really the right way, and we have a 10-year way to make sure it's going to be beautiful for that whole 10 years and beyond that, frankly. It's the cost to bring it back with all of that is $11 million, with everybody being very generous as part of that. We've chosen to do that well, first of all, we've chosen, even though we're a two-person organization who did all the stuff you just saw that summer and started off at the beginning of this year with 0 on the Bay Lights, we chose not to hire a fundraiser, which costs another 10% or adds another more than $1 million to the project, who's just going to make me call all the people I know anyway and try and shake them down. They're just going to beat me up on a regular basis. And just decided to do our best to go through what we know would always be a communal effort, a word-of-mouth effort, a social effort of, here's the reality of a project that we all know, and who could support it. We took the 11 million, we broke it into $10 million in major pledges, and then the 11th million in a crowdfunding campaign, so everyone has a chance to participate. Mm-hmm. Some of that's just efficiency. We have a lot to do in the world, and it's hard to raise, what would be $100,000, $1,000 gifts or whatever it's going to be. $1 million gift gets you a big lift. So we have, of that 10 million, I think when Robert introduced it, he said we were at 75%. I'm pleased to report as of this evening, we have another $500,000 in the mix, so we're at 80% of that. It's really exciting. We've got a gentleman named Emmett Shear, who's a matching gift from Tatobi, and it's just really nice to see people coming together to make this happen. That means we have $2 million left. Once we get, and now we're just getting pledges. These are typically bigger gifts. Once we get the 10th million, then we collect on all those pledges, we start cutting checks again, and this project starts moving again, and we'll publish a schedule as to when we believe the artwork will come back. And then on the 11th million, we started that crowdfunding campaign. That campaign can continue for a long time. We're doing way better than I thought we would. We're already at $500,000 with about 1,000 people giving to that campaign. That's at the baylights360.org if anyone wants to make a gift or keep an eye on the campaign. But what really, I'd like to ask this group to do, I grew up in kind of an atheist household. Both my parents were burned out on their own religions, and they just let the kids go free range. But in Boston, there were the kids with saying the prayers, and I always thought it was so kooky. People are saying prayers to who and what, and nonsense. But then I heard that in French, I don't know, I haven't verified this, but that to say a prayer is simply to ask. So I'm asking for help. We've chosen to do this in a really super ethical way. No ads. Really just a group of people with sincere integrity, everybody working generously to make this happen. We've chosen not to push the money out and to make some kind of giant fundraising juggernaut. And everybody here knows somebody. And all that really has to happen is you have to keep letting people know, hey, no, the Bay Lights can come back. We're $2 million away. They're looking for a few gifts. Who do we know? To turn the corner on this project so that we can all move on to this, the next wave of this challenge of this project, working with Caltrans and CHP to make sure we can do this aesthetic equity for the entire Bay, creating this thrilling sensibility, getting Leo Villarreal back out here so we can start to really understand this artwork again with the new technology. He's committed to maintaining the beauty of the Bay Lights, but he's still the artist with the ability to change it. We're not going to go color. We're keeping this white only. People may know that we could, for about the same cost, we could do color, but Leo gets to go to New York, and I have to be the guy here telling the Giants no when they win the World Series and they want to turn it orange. and really, we resist any temptation to try and turn this into a screen. It's not a screen. It's a piece of art that has integrity.
And white lights give you more of a chance to read into it what's important to you individually, to see the different movements. I think it's better.
And there's also this, as we began this project, we knew the Eastern Span was coming, and we really want to create that sense of coherency across the bridge. So that beautiful white scheme continues on this side. There's a lot of consciousness that goes into the decisions that, that Leo ultimately has made on this project. It's masterful. It's beautiful, and like you say, it's been randomized in such a way that you never see the same thing twice. It's there's stanzas that are familiar, and it's a genius level piece that he's created. I mean, it's really amazing. I so look forward to it coming back. I really want to see it again.
And not only for the spiritual or the uplifting nature, it's been a huge financial boon to the city also. I saw some accounting firm that was saying it was, it boosted the regional economy by more than 100 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a lot, but if you realize that the Christos Gates in Central Park, that installation, that was up for, I think, 21 days. And Bloomberg did an exhaustive kind of economic impact study. And in those 21 days that it was up, they figured out that it raised $250 million in those 21 days for the city of New York. So it's no stretch to think that over the course of a decade, the Bay Lights generate $1 billion. That's 4 times as much over the course of a decade rather than 21 days. So it seems weird to think about it, but it really does make a big difference in just sort of the economic vitality and resiliency of the region. But I'm telling you what, I don't care about we have to raise the money and it's going to make its impact difference. None of that matters to me. What matters is experiencing the beauty on the side of the bridge and sharing it with people. And the way that piece has the ability, it doesn't make a difference who you are. You don't need an art history background. You don't need to speak a particular language. You don't need to have a particular belief system. It doesn't make a difference about anything. If you stand there, you pretty much just want to reach out and grab the hand of the person next to you and go, wow, we're alive. It's like being next to the Grand Canyon, and to see the generosity and the people sharing their phones and taking selfies on the waterfront, and the stories I hear about, not just the anniversaries and the proposals. But I had one guy who said, look, I want to thank you. My dad has Alzheimer's, and he's lost the kind of the plot on everything except the Bay Lights are the one thing. And we go and sit there together. And it's the one thing we can talk about and he can remember. It's like,
wow.
It's and that kind of beauty is happening at a scale none of us who work in the project can even process. But it's so beautiful when you see those little wisps of it coming up and know that that's happening in lots and lots of places. It's so rewarding. Yeah, of course you'd sell your house for that.
Not me, but you. Are you ready for some questions
Sure.
from the audience?
Ready for another sip of wine.
Your wine? Yes, I'll take a sip of mine too.
It's nice to know you're all there. You were just a concept for most of the evening.
You're a very effective communicator. Were you like that even in childhood?
I think I've always, I'm not sure if I was a very good communicator, but I always was an edge tester. I mean, my mom was like, you're pushing it right to the edge. And I'm still pushing it right to the edge all the time. It's so amazing how much beauty there is, how much people love being part of it, how much appreciation I receive, and yet how much I antagonize people as part of the process. I also will say that when I first took over Illuminate, and I gave a talk, or I was trying to realize, wait, the only thing I need to do now is become a more comfortable and confident public speaker. The truth is, I don't have anything other than words. I don't have a checkbook. I don't have a way to punish people. All I have is the power of inspiration, and that's going to come through the words, and then some of the ability to create, visual spectacle. And now I'm realizing, it's reputation. There are a lot of things that sort of open doors and melt people before you even get in the room that are really powerful tools, in a sense, for creating transformation. And I honor all of them and try and do it. But I ended up taking on a lot of speaking things, and at one point I got an invitation to go to Las Vegas and be the keynote speaker for 10,000 people at something called Strategies in Light, and it scared me. I said, I got to do that. It's because I feel scared of it, and I prepared a whole speech about the Bay Lights and took a plane and checked into my room and was walking into the auditorium area through the giant trade shows of what turned out to be just an illumination trade show with people showing how they're going to put light on the skin of cars and light on your hat and on the sides of a building, and everyone was making safety claims, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this over-illuminated world, this is like the illumination industrial complex going on. And I've just turned my life around to run a place called Illuminate, and I'm feeling sick to my stomach that I'm going to contribute to this plague across the world right now of over-illumination. And I ended up giving a talk there, threw away the notes, and just thought about it and said, look, I'm having an existential crisis. But I think what's happening is there's the light that gives in the world and there's the light that takes. There's the light that, fills you with love and the light that bleaches your soul. And right now, light's going to do what it's going to do whether I choose to stay at Illuminate or not. But maybe I can play a role in helping people understand the light that gives versus the light that takes. And just if you want an example in your mind, I think the Bay Lights, I know the love, the generosity of the community, the integrity that was invested in that piece to manifest it. And I do think it's a very giving, generous light. If you go to Times Square, certainly a spectacle of light in the evening. But each one is competing to get your attention, to shake you by the ankles. And it's just a whole different energy. So I've committed, every day to try and be a good communicator. My main thing right now is to try and be present with wherever I am, which is a challenge for me too. I'm kind of an interesting brain that wants to go lots of places. And I want to keep getting better. I want to make sure that I can be in service, not just as a communicator, but really to try and understand myself. To be in deep service is to try and really understand yourself in the world. So,
I just want to follow up on what you just said. London built the London Eye, and now even San Francisco has a big Ferris wheel. Everybody seems to get on the same train. And I had heard that Leo Villarreal had been commissioned to do lights on London bridges, on 12 bridges, and I don't know if that's true or not. You might know. I imagine you do. But how do you feel about the other cities that will inevitably want to light their bridges?
Leo has done 9 bridges in the Thames already, beautiful, illuminated river, working with the Rothschilds, and he's got a few more to go. And when we started this project, it was an impossibility. We're trying to put lights on the side of an interstate freeway, 500 feet above water and live traffic. But it was sort of like Roger, was it Bannister or Barrister, running the 4-minute mile, where suddenly once you did it, everyone realized, well, this is a possibility. And now there are bridge lighting divisions in every major architecture firm around the world. It's just helped people think differently. One of the ironies, or what I call the practice of inverse focus, is if you want to have reach in the world, concentrate your efforts. And I think this is one of the reasons why staying put in San Francisco is a way to change the world, because we can inspire the world with different possibilities. And I hope, I think that the Golden Mile is inspiring people. I think actually we're inspiring ourselves even within the city. All the work that we've done on the Golden Gate Band Show and the concerts that we're running. Illuminate this year, we're going to have concerts, we already are, we're working with them on Union Square, India Basin. We're going to be doing it at the Embarcadero. So lots and lots of live free music across San Francisco. I think it's really just about inspiring and don't have any boundaries. I mean, I'll say also that, I sometimes catch a little bit of grief from people because I'm working with artists not from San Francisco. I'm like, well, first of all, everybody in the Bay Area is a San Francisco artist. So we had the campus, and they probably lived here at one point and can't anymore, and let's just honor the whole damn thing. But also, I think, I think we should be open to all energy right now. I think that the borderism, the idea that us and them and all that stuff, it just kind of drives me mad, frankly.
Hi, Ben. Obviously in the city, lights are everywhere, so I really appreciate the...
Well, that's Sevgi. I know who that is.
So I appreciate the light show you put on for us. My concern is I like darkness as well, and nature is about darkness. And I just wanted to find out how the lights, like how much resources, natural resources, the lights, putting up these lights cost.
How much energy use is there?
Yes.
On the Bay Lights, there's this thing where the energy cost keeps going down as the LED efficiency goes up. When we had the full 25,000 before, it pretty much cost more to park under the bridge for the night than to light the bridge. I think it was about maybe a maximum about $30 worth of electricity per night, which I don't know, we could translate that into a washer or a dryer or something. It's very efficient, all things considered. There's questions, you might have questions about night sky. I mean, I think about all of this stuff, energy efficiency. I will say this, though, that I'm sensitive to all of it. I think we have good high marks on all of it. I don't want to be, though, held to some ridiculous standard because I care, where those who don't care run rampant and do like 100, 1,000x, right? Where, Salesforce is setting up right now. And I'm sure they have a sustainability committee, everything else, but that's a big corporate thing, and they'll be blowing through resources. We're gentle, and we want to always be gentle in what we do here in San Francisco that way. I've lived a purpose-driven life in a lot of ways. I walked backwards through life, mostly all the things I didn't want to do. I was a server and a messenger, a restaurant server and a bike messenger for a long time, and I'm still the server and a messenger. I think the lessons accumulate in the, it's a commitment to integrity and higher values across the board that lets a revelation come. And the humility of realizing, dude, you're being fear-based. You're being callous to other people. If you want to not be wrapped in emotional gauze your whole life, as I feel like I was, you're going to have to take a few risks. And you're going to have to put yourself out there in this name of love. And the bigger revelation was not seeing the bridge. I mean, the bridge showed itself to me. It's not my idea. It was part of a collective consciousness. It was the internal thing to say, no, overcome that fear. Step into that. Step into that scary love of the unknown. But, where all power and possibility lives. And that's not like a revelation, really. It's a practice. In fact, this is the thing I will say for every single thing. I'm moving into this increasing alignment where everything I do now is not an outcome, it's just practice. Every word out of my mouth, I hope, can be part of a practice. Every piece of intention I have can be part of a practice. And I think that's what really starts to open up this bigger energetic thing. As the metaphor for Illuminate, we're certainly not a top-down organization. There's all kinds of ways to think about an organization. But I think right now we're sort of this energetic vortex. We're this permission system to come in. Oh, you have a cool idea. It makes sense. It's generous. We can find a way to make it happen. You need a little help. You need to know who to talk to. Let's keep going. The City of Awe is not about Illuminate. The City of Awe is about everybody in San Francisco. Sweep your porch. Plant some flowers. Do something beautiful in your school. Make this an amazing place to raise children. This is an energetic invitation to just be our best selves, our most generous selves, to create a place that feels safe. In my mind, it's for the 9-year-old girl walking through school in the Tenderloin. That's the perspective I always want to hold. That's the person I want to see have an amazing experience living in San Francisco and not have to step over bodies or worry about her safety. I think there's this way to really to become the city that inspires the rest of the world, because we have all the resources. We just need, it's like the beauty of all this laser light I've been working with this summer is it's called coherent light. It doesn't use much energy, but it puts a very focused beam. And I feel like if we can get enough vision here in San Francisco and we can focus that beam, we can make this the most amazing place. We just have to agree on a few things and not fight each other every step of the way. On that, thank you.